Showing it feels taking over. No one can deny we're queens in our own rights. Rather or flee, we're ruling the game, turning heads. Yeah, we're making our own name. Living free, we're breaking the mold. Unapologetic, we're standing bold. Every picture we post, it's a story untold. We're inspiring souls, watch us unfold. Watch us unfold.
Hey ladies, welcome back to another episode of Rooted in Your Confidence. I am Samantha Kay, and today we're diving into something I've been reflecting on deeply. I was invited to be on a panel of a roundtable with women this past week, and something happened that I wanted to share with you. And it's something I just needed to share with you, I think, in my head. We were talking about why I stopped looking for allies and started trusting myself, and why this shift might change everything for you too. So I was on a panel with 4 other women. They work in male-dominated industries. One of them was the first ever woman in rail, and then one in electrical unit, and one that came up through the ranks. And just their stories are amazing. And I don't have permission to share their stories, so I don't want to go into intimate details of that. But what I do want to do is tell you about me. And I just wanted to say that their stories are incredible. So if they ever want to share and they ever want to be on these podcasts, and being women in these industries and the challenges that they face and still face to this day, I would invite them and let them share so that you can hear and hopefully be inspired to stand up, use your voice, and embrace your true selves while being there. But anyway, fast forward, let me get into what I wanted to talk about today. So, at the round table, a question came to me. And the question that came to me was, how do I think men could support women in male-dominated industries? And my response was, I don't believe in needing men to shift or change for us to be comfortable. Let me tell you why that surprised the room. But it didn't surprise me, because this is what I stand on. This is what I believe. This is how I show up, and I tell all of you all the time. But I think saying it in an audience of almost 200 people, they were shocked, because I believe in self-allying, because we as women have been taught to lean into what other people think, how other people feel, what we should and should not do, more than we lean into ourselves. We look for direction from them. If we look for them to tell us how great we are, if we look for them to be okay with us being in these environments, we never depend on ourselves. We always will be dependent on someone else. And this happens, we all know, because of the patriarchal system that I speak about, and how it has defined what a woman's role is and what a man's role is, and how we should and should not show up. And we do this unconsciously, even though we're conscious of it, because of the biases and the systemic racism and the gender inequality. We shift so that we don't face these struggles back into that norm. Even though we walk in powerful, bold, beautiful humans who are more than qualified, that are at the top of our list, that are at the top of the list and qualified, we somehow believe that we need to be what others think to be liked and to fit in. And I get it, because if we don't stand firm and have that confidence in ourselves, it feels like pieces of you are being torn away. It feels like they're chipping away from you. Or it feels like, I know for me, let me speak for me, it felt like I was being twisted and turned into whatever they needed me to be. I was twisted and turned into a pretzel, or any type of taffy that you can just twist and turn so that I could feel okay or feel like I am welcomed into that environment. But, when I said it, the reaction I got was like, oh, okay. But I stand in it, and I still stand in this. And let me tell you why. I know it's uncomfortable, and it may feel like that tightness in your chest, that pit in your stomach, that, when you're on a roller coaster and you feel that drop when the roller coaster drops. For those of you who ride roller coasters, I know it feels like that when you're standing there and you're in the moment and you stand differently than everyone else, or you believe differently than anyone else. But trust me, it's necessary. It's necessary for your survival, for you to thrive, not for you to survive. It's necessary for you to thrive in these environments. That's why you have to check in with your body and feel and know where you're feeling this discomfort, and know that you're not alone, that someone gets you and sees you, because I do. I understand that doing something outside of what is the norm that society considers by being in these environments can be a bit overwhelming. But if you trust yourself and get to know yourself and get to know where this is happening in your body, you'll move forward and believe and trust in you. So I offer you to check in with yourself. Where did you feel this tension? Or if you start doing anything to relax and allow yourself to face what is coming, where is the clarity? Where does your shoulders release the tension? Are you able to stand taller? Are you breathing lighter? Are you standing at more erect so that you know that you own the room? Are you standing in all of your power? So where in your body, which will happen if you allow yourself. I know for me, let me tell you, when I go into a room now, then I no longer look for anyone to validate me but me. That I am the boss lady, that I own my value that I bring to this position. I stand so tall. I stand so strong in my belief system. And I know this isn't easy for everyone because of societal conditionings that we face. And I know we face it, and it has to be unlearned or recognized so that we can unlearn it, because we've been conditioned to believe that we need someone else in order to feel safe, to be seen and supported. Meaning mentally, we mentally think that if we have someone that shows up for us, that this is what we've been taught, that if someone believes in us, that they have our back, then we can take the necessary steps forward. Physically, men are always asking, oh, can you lift that? Can you do this? If I couldn't, I would ask for help. So they automatically feel, hey, this is what we're supposed to do. Financially, they've been always asked about how to make financial decisions as if we were not smart enough to take care of our own monies. But again, this has only been changed over in the past 50 years where we were even allowed to have bank accounts socially. What happens socially to us? We're only allowed or have felt that we can't belong in the groups with the men because of the things that they may or may not be talking about that we connect with. Emotionally is our feelings about all of the above, the mental, the physical, the financial, the social. So we need to, again, check in with our bodies to see what this conditioning feel like in my body. For me, it felt an uneasiness. It felt like I wasn't steady on my feet. I felt as if I was teetering. So I'm not sure how any of you feel, but hey, always hit me up, reply, and tell me. And the real cause is women not trusting our own choices, our own instincts. Many of us wait and we stand still instead of moving forward because we don't trust ourselves. But here's the uncomfortable truth we don't talk about enough. Self-allyship. Self-allyship is having your own back. When I rely on others for validation, I give away my power. When I waited for validation, I felt sad. I felt unseen. I felt anxious. But when I trust myself, I feel whole. I feel strong. I feel bold. I feel courageous. The same thing happens when we want this from others. The same things we want from others, safety, trust, encouragement, we can give to ourselves first. Let me walk you through what that day looked like for me. When I started trusting myself, when I started believing in myself, when I no longer looked for allyship and for anyone to have my back. when I started standing for myself. Let me tell you, I don't look for anyone to the right or to the left of me to speak for me, to validate me, to say what Samantha's saying is correct. Whatever I say, I mean, whatever I know is right. And if it isn't, I'm woman enough, human enough to stand up and say, oh, I made a mistake. But I unwaveringly stand in whatever I know to be true for me. And I remember the day when I did that recently. I was speaking to a manager, and this manager who has no clue of how things are really moving, shifting, growing, who's never been in the field to understand even when you work in different departments, you have your own language that you speak. And I said, hey, the way you wrote this does not reflect the environment that we work in, and you're asking questions that people won't understand. And his response was so dismissive and disrespectful to me in front of another human. He was like, well, I don't see the big difference. And this is the way I wrote it. I said, I understand that, trying to have a conversation, but he was dismissive. So I ended up I gave myself permission. Let me tell you that, to say, I don't like that. Don't speak to me like that. You're disrespectful. And he then in turn, and I had someone sitting next to me, but because he's trying not to make waves because he want a promotion, because he think that's the way of going along and get along, but that's not my issue, nor my problem, nor my responsibility for him to figure out. That is his, and I leave that right there. But back to what I was saying, when I said that, automatically went on a defense and wanted to say, well, he didn't think it was. And I had to let him know that my thought wasn't about him. It was about my thought and how my thought made me feel by the way he spoke to me. He had nothing to say. He just stood there. That's me taking control and believing in me enough and knowing what I do, that I stood in it. And I wasn't disrespectful or rude, but I did speak up. And that's what it takes. You being able to speak up and not looking for everyone to have an amen corner behind you. Somebody say, good job. Thanks for speaking up for me. Clapping for you. You get to clap for yourself. You get to believe in you. And let me tell you, having your own back, being your own ally. I remember reading in Bell Hooks' book, The Revolution of Self-Love. There is a quote from it that it talks about. The quote from the book, All About Love, is, there can be no love without justice. Did you hear that? There can be no love without justice. And what is self-care versus self-love? Self-care equals, let me tell y'all, because this is where society is getting us messed up. They're telling us all about self-care, self-care. Self-care equals external things. Bubble baths, me time. Self-love equals internal truth telling, boundaries, and belief. So I think we should tap into that self-love. This allows us to self-ally. Let me tell you that when we tap into self-love, it allows us to tap into self-love. Not just the things around us that pacify, but that's that internal belief in yourself, that internal worth, that internal value. It is telling the truth, setting boundaries, belief in you. Self-care without self-love is a temporary comfort. Loving ourselves is a radical act. It's saying, I choose me, I believe in me, I support me. And that sometimes is hard because we are taught to love others, sacrifice ourselves as women. But if we give everything that we give to everyone else to ourselves, what a switch. You know how we build and support one another, and that person goes out into the world feeling amazing, feeling like they can conquer Mount Everest? What if you did that for yourself? What if you did that for yourself? And when I think back about needing that external validation, needing someone to say, hey, Samantha, great job. I remember being in a situation where I needed someone to say good job. Of course, working with men, and I used to lift my 80-pound jackhammer. I used to lift up the bags of concrete, shovel just as hard, or if not harder, because I wanted to prove that I was there. I wanted the men to say, Samantha, you belong here. You are an amazing asset. And I waited for them. And in that waiting, I continued to work harder. I continued to break myself down. That's why I have slipped disc now, arthritis in my spine, and a bad shoulder, because I was so willing to sacrifice myself to be seen and to be heard and to prove that I belong there. I always went out of my way for them to say, ooh, good. If they didn't, then I felt bad. Then I felt I wasn't doing enough, or maybe they're second guessing that I shouldn't be here. But when I stopped waiting for them, that's when change happened. I never wanted to be known as talking too much. I remember just always feeling this tightness or this breathing differently, waiting for them. And I don't want to feel like that. And understanding that I get to change it. I get to understand where in my body all of these things of looking for outside validation are affecting me. The way I stand, the way I'm always looking around, looking for something else to do, the way my breath is uneasy. But when I started to shift and I started to change, when I started allowing myself to understand that I didn't like that uneasiness. I didn't like walking on eggshells. I didn't like looking over my shoulder. I didn't like wanting something from someone else all the time. That was the most uncomfortable situation of always being ready to survive by doing more than was needed to prove I belong there. So you know how many pieces of myself I tore away from me in order to be part of a group that never wanted me, that didn't shift for me, and instead of me just being me and me just showing up, I decided. No one asked me to. I decided I wasn't enough. And my body paid the price of it. So being able to understand that you have to stop looking for that and look for yourself. Stop looking for approval. Stop holding your breath. Hold your shoulders back. Be clear when you're speaking. And this doesn't happen overnight, but it was a choice that I made over and over again to start to stand up. Now when I speak, I feel like I own it. I own my words. I feel the power. And when I think back to a client that I coach, and she had told me, not only because of my own experiences, let me say that, but me having coached a woman who was so caught up, she worked in the fashion industry, and the higher you go up in the fashion industry, you recognize that it's male dominated. And the more you went up, the higher you went, you realize that you're in rooms where you're the only woman. And this woman said to me what she did and how she made the men comfortable with her. And she was okay with it. And I'll be damned, let me say that. She said that she told them little things about her to make them comfortable. You know, that she had a family, she had a husband, so that they would be comfortable knowing who she was, so they would trust her and believe that she was competent, not just in her job, but in her personal life, that she was human. And that's why I say I'll be damned if I make everybody comfortable or make myself uncomfortable by giving so much of myself and receiving so little back. Yes, a paycheck is something, but to get people to understand you by giving away you is so unfair. And that shift in her in understanding when I explained the pieces of herself that she was giving away was like that aha moment. That was that moment of truth when she realized she was giving her own self-value to them, where she was no longer valuing herself by herself. She was waiting for them to say it was okay for her to be her in this environment where they were uncomfortable, where they should have been checking in with themselves, figuring that out, that she was not responsible for how they felt about her, because she was coming in 110% prepared and ready and giving the job all she had because she loved it and she wanted to be there and put her best foot forward. And she knew that the industry itself was not kind to me. And then I had another woman that I coached. She worked in distribution of alcohol. I forget the correct terminology, but y'all figure it out. If you want to drop it in the comments or send me an email, I'm welcome for it, so I can have beverages And that is also a male-dominated industry. And being in that industry, she was angry. This woman was angry. She was angry because she felt excluded. She felt that the men were intentionally doing her harm because they had conversations about things she had no idea about. This is how she interpreted the conversation. And because she was always in fight mode, always on the defense, she was losing so much of her peace. She gave away her power by assuming that their actions were about her and that they were meant to hurt her instead of them just being able to talk about it. I helped her reframe and take her emotions back. When you reclaim your interpretation, we reclaim our peace. We get to interpret things when we stop, and we stop giving it and making everybody else the main focus instead of ourselves. So I want to ask you to start asking yourself these questions when you don't feel validated, when you don't feel part of. Are you looking for someone else to fill a gap that you aren't giving yourself? And why are we focused on being part of a group that didn't invite us, that doesn't invite us? Why do we want to be part of this group that doesn't invite us? And what happens if we stop seeking approval and start standing rooted in our own power? What if we do that? What if we just allow ourselves to feel that uncomfortable state and resist compromising and stand on our own? What if we do that? What if we decide to feel uncomfortable and resist the urge to ask someone to validate us? I'm just saying. And I think that's what I even did when I spoke my truth at the beginning of the roundtable. Like, I don't think that I could help them understand me. That's not what I'm here for. I don't believe in that. No matter how uncomfortable and that silence that I received or the looks that I received, I stood in it, and that was my power. And it feels good. And it allowed my whole center self to shift into what allowed me to be balanced and true to me. And what does balance look like? The balanced approach. Self-allyship doesn't mean going it alone. It means going from wholeness. We can still have support, love, and community, but we don't need it to feel worthy. This is not about isolation. It's about liberation. Where in your life are you waiting for someone else to validate you? Who have you handed the power to decide your worth? What would you change if you could choose to trust yourself first? Notice when you're waiting for backup. What am I hoping they'll say? Ask yourself, what am I hoping they'll say that I can say to myself? And then write down the moment when you can get the support you wanted. What did it feel like in my body? What was I hoping someone else could do for me? What would I do for myself now as my own ally? Remember this. I don't need to be chosen. I see myself. I'm not sitting around hoping to be seen. I see myself. And I want that for you too. Take the confidence quiz in the show notes. It's your first step towards rooting into you. Until next time, stay rooted, stay powerful, and always, always have your own back. Sis, you don't have to twist, shrink, or hide. You deserve to be seen, heard, and valued for exactly who you are. If this episode spoke to you, make sure you follow, subscribe, so you never miss the conversation. And if you're ready to take this work deeper, take my confidence quiz. The link is in the show notes. Or book a session with me to start showing up in your career and life with the confidence you deserve. Until next time, walk through the door differently, show up, show out, be you, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Strong and fierce, taking over. No one can deny we're queens in our own right. Swagger on fleek, we're ruling the game, turning heads. Yeah, we're making our own name. Living free, we're breaking the mold. Unapologetic, we're standing bold. Every picture we post, it's a story untold. We're inspired souls, watch us unfold. Watch us unfold. every click, every flash, we're shining so bright. Through the lens, we're showing who we truly are.